Now, we often read surprising stories about celebrities who died without an estate plan. The list includes Michael Jackson, Tupac, Chadwick Boseman, Princess Diana, Aretha Franklin, Prince. You can go on and on. So, even very wealthy people are putting off the kind of planning that we all honestly should be doing. CNBC's Sharon Epperson says it's something that we really need to put some thought into.
You have to figure out who you want. You have to figure out who you want to be doing key things in your life. Who do you want to have as your beneficiaries? Who do you want to be the executor of the will to help execute where things are going to go? And then you want to make some specific arrangements about where assets are placed and where they should go. All of those things are things to think about, talk about, write down, and talk to the people that you want to give these designations to make sure that they're equipped with knowing how to do it too.
Okay, so that all sounds good and well, and it makes sense, but where do we start, guys?
Well, we've done this for, I think, a long time. I think combined up here is almost 100 years of experience of going through this. And, unfortunately, we, dealing with retired clients, have clients and loved ones that pass away. And, we kind of have worked through the process to help them make the process a little bit easier because it's somewhat new for them. One of the things that the three of us did, we sat down and we took our, 75 plus years of experience and said, what are some of the most common things that we see happen, and what are the first steps to take in estate planning? And we put that all together in what we call the ultimate estate planning checklist. So I'm biased, but what I would tell you is that the first thing you should do is get a copy of our ultimate estate planning checklist. What it does is it takes all the areas and it kind of walks through, our personal experiences of being in the industry. And the great thing is, neither of us are attorneys, so there's not like there's a clock ticking in the background. We don't charge for that report. All you have to do is call the office at 419-794-3030. You can get a copy of it. You can also shoot us an email if you go over to the website, arhq.com, get a copy of it. Now, a couple of things I think that are examples that I have seen is we do a lot of public speaking events. And, of course, we've got a lot of public speaking events that are come up. But, one that stands up to me is that I was at an event that I was speaking in Swanton, and we were talking. And after the event, this lady came up to me, and she was literally in tears, and she was telling me the story about how she had recently lost her husband, and she went and she put a claim on for his insurance. And what she was denied the claim on his life insurance.
Wow.
And so she was like, I don't know financially how I'm going to be able to make it. Come to find out, having a little bit more of a conversation with her, what I found out is she had what's called accidental life insurance. Mm-hmm. She didn't have insurance that covers no matter what. She had insurance that, just in the event that, her husband would have died like in a plane crash or died in some type of accident, it would have been covered. And so she didn't realize, what the limitations were in her coverage. I've also run into situations where people forget to make changes when life happens. There's a great story, if you get an opportunity, if you want to read it, you can Google the pension pickle. And that story talks about a teacher who, when she started teaching at the young age that she did get into the teaching profession, had named her sister as her beneficiary of her retirement account through the schools. And later on in life, she got married. Now, she never updated her beneficiary forms. And so when she passed away, they pulled out the beneficiary designation. The beneficiary designation said, it's her sister that gets the assets. And her husband, took it all the way to the Supreme Court. Kids got up there and said, loving couple. I'm sure mom would have wanted him to have the assets. They, were a couple. It's for him. And the judge said, I believe that's probably accurate. I believe, her wishes were probably the money should go to you as a loving husband for all these years. But the reality is we have to go by what's in writing, and what's in writing says the sister. And, any guesses? Did the sister give the $1 million pension back?
Half.
No, that's as far as what I read.
Wow.
But you can read that whole story on the pension pickle. Again, the ultimate estate planning checklist, we're going to walk you through these areas to take a look at and get it put together. And I don't know about you guys, but, to me, I think one of the first steps in, the estate planning process is to create an inventory of all of your assets and debts. That's things like your retirement accounts, your insurance policies, your property, your vehicles, any valuables that should be included inside of your inventory as one of the first steps that you should take. Now, I don't know about you guys, but what would you say would be one of the first steps in estate planning is?
Well, I've actually I've mentioned this many times before. With my dad passing here a year and a half ago, mom, especially at their ages, 84, 85 years old, mom had no idea what to do, right? And one of the things, I've been the one that's had to go through step by step and help her out. And when you look at it, she would have no idea how to handle this. One of the first things that I would say is I would echo what you said there, Nolan, is, get an inventory, right? Jot down, I look at it a little bit differently also. Jot down the important numbers, the important passwords, all of that. And like a cell phone, charge cards, all of those type of things is exactly the problems that you have to deal with every time someone passes. My dad had a separate account which paid for his DirecTV bill, right? Well, they turned the TV off because mom didn't have access to that account. So those are things that you want to make sure you take care of prior to. Get in touch and make sure that you know exactly what you have. That, like you, I guess an inventory would be the same thing. I hate to say the same thing you said, but an inventory of everything, you're going to need that eventually, so why not get it in place now?
Yeah,
I'd say, as he points out, passwords are kind of a crucial thing to know. It's pretty common to be able to lose those things when you lose one spouse versus another. And, that is a section that we did add again in the ultimate estate planning checklist. And Chaz, you were going to say, what are some of the experiences that you have, and what are the first steps when you're talking to the clients about the first steps to take in estate planning?
Yeah, I think those definitely taking inventory. The other one that I would put up there high, probably top 3, would be to determine what your goals are going to be. What is the ultimate disposition for the money? What do you want to try to achieve with your estate plan? So this kind of goes back to the first segment that we talked about, which is tax planning. Do we want to minimize taxes for our beneficiaries? Do we want to pay taxes? What are our goals for providing for the loved ones? Do we have charities or churches that are important to us that we're passionate about? And then the other one that I would say is choosing an executor. And that's where I thought you were going with it, Scott.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is that, obviously as a trusted advisor, for your parents and whatnot, that's a perfect, segue to a person to have in your back. So basically selecting the people that are going to be there for you, that you can count on, that you trust after your death to carry out your wishes, and then determining what those wishes are, I think, and then going into taking stock of what we have are some of the top 3.
I think, to me, I would say if you look at it, there's, and I'm sure our listeners know, there's a lot of families that get destroyed when, one of the two parents pass away, or when they both pass away. You see people doing, fighting over money and silly things like that. To me, what I would say is families oftentimes get destroyed when there's no clear plan in place.
Mm-hmm. Right.
That's my experience. And we were in a meeting together the other day, Chaz, and we were talking with some clients about their estate planning wishes. And, one of the things that you had pointed out in their situation is it doesn't always have to be equal.
Right.
So, if you have 3 kids, it doesn't have to be a third, a third, a third. Mm-hmm. It could be different based upon the family's unique situations and what the needs are of those children. But, the thing is to make sure that you've documented the reasons why through the estate planning process and communicated that, with the kids, so you can make sure that they understand. And I think that makes it very helpful. Mm-hmm. At the same time, some of the ways to minimize family conflict is, thinking of where the value is and maybe utilizing a third party or an estate planning attorney. And of course, we're not attorneys, so we're not trying to give you legal advice. Always seek the advice of an attorney before you make legal decisions. But we were in a situation where we were talking with a gentleman. He wanted to set up a trust based upon the assets that he had. Within the trust, then he said, well, my one daughter is a little bit more financially savvy than the other daughter, so I'm going to put my other daughter in charge of it, and she's going to be in charge of the other daughter's money, because the other daughter probably shouldn't have the money. I said, well, let's step back a minute and look at this situation, because the risk is that could create some huge family conflict. So there's a lot of things in your situation that you haven't thought through, and the ultimate estate planning checklist is that first step to take, and we're happy to get that information to you.
Right there at the start of the segment, I rattled off 6 celebrities who didn't have estate plans. And the truth is, we only know about that because, well, they're famous. This happens every day, all the time with people who are not in the spotlights every day. And it's something that could be avoided with a little bit of proper planning. Take advantage of this. Take advantage of the ultimate estate planning checklist. Pick up the phone, give a call. 419-794-3030 is the number. 419-794-3030, or go online, arhq.com. Want to thank you so much for joining us today, spending part of your weekend with us here on America's Retirement Headquarters. Please have a great week ahead of you. Be safe out there, guys. Thank you as always. And as we wrap up, want to leave you with the final word.
I'd say spring is here. Let's get together and do some spring cleaning on your finances, put it all together. And just remember, when you think retirement, think America's Retirement Headquarters, home of the retirement guys at America's Medicare Associates.